Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Week in Churning webcast here. I am Frank, your host as always. Would like to say how many weeks we are in here and how many webcasts we've done, but I'm not exactly sure. I know the number is up now. It's probably 6, 7, or 8, somewhere around there. Good news is if you were able to tune into my Japan broadcast I did 2 weeks ago when I was actually in Kyoto with my cell phone, walking around on Philosopher's Walk and through some of those temples. The show didn't end up getting recorded. So I emailed support. They got back to me a few days ago, and the broadcast is actually up and working now. So that's terrific. If you go to blab.im/DougUp46, my name in Reddit and just about everywhere else. If you go to that, it'll take you to my profile page. And if you scroll down through, you'll see live in Japan in Kyoto. You can actually click on that. The audio isn't the best. It's not the most appealing show to listen to, but it's kind of cool because it was, like I said, I was walking, my fiance and I were walking down through Philosopher's Walk, which was beautiful with the cherry blossoms and everything. And then we actually walked through one of the temples and we just kind of showed everybody the temple. So that was really neat. I'm glad that the recording actually did end up working. And I have that to look back on because that was a pretty neat experience. So definitely watch that if you get a chance. So this week I wanted to talk about some of the online tools that we use in churning every day. So things like AwardMapper and AwardWallet we're very familiar with, and then touch on some of the ones that maybe we don't use every day, like Hotel Hustle, some of the newer ones like TurnIO and Turnbase, and touch on some of the pluses and minuses, the pros and cons of those tools. And then I wanted to touch on the in-sky experiences I have written down. I guess I didn't really word it too well, but what is in my head and what I'm thinking about talking and what to discuss is, so we all know that, we can go to Japan, or I use Japan because I was just there. So let's use Japan, for instance. You may want to go to Japan because of the temples and everything else, but there may be cities that it's not really on your radar right away. So a place like maybe Dubai or Doha or something like that. When you look at some of the different ways to get to these places, you're really impressed by the aircraft and just the experience that you get, flying there. So maybe Emirates or Qatar Airlines or Qatar, whatever you want to call it, Japan Airlines first class or business class even on some of these planes. So maybe the plane itself and just the experience you can get from booking that flight can persuade you to go to a country or a city that you really had no ambition to go to initially. So I'm going to talk about some of that and some of the interesting, places that, we can that kind of get brought up normally when you talk about the different in-flight experiences. And then finally, I figured we'd open up for a little question and answer session like I usually do. Kind of field some of the everyday questions that you get. If you have anything that maybe Moronic Monday or whatever didn't get answered, but Moronic Monday has been so great, man. I try to go on there to help people, and I click on the link, and everybody's already been helped. It's ridiculous. I mean, I see a post that's posted 5 minutes ago, and there's already a reply on it. So that has improved so much. I definitely give the mods at Reddit credit for that because it's a great place to ask questions. Back when I first got started, there was a lot of posts a lot of noob questions, a lot of posts, and then a lot of downvotes. So it was kind of rough to get started. It's not too bad anymore. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and start talking about some of these online tools. So if you're new to kind of get into, if you're new getting into it, some of the tools that you want to be very familiar with, and you'll log on to these tools pretty much every day or at least once a week. The first one being AwardWallet, and I can't speak enough about this tool. It's by and far the most useful for me. It's something that I use just about on an everyday basis. I have enough cards to where I'm putting enough spend on all my different cards, maybe just a little bit. So I don't put my daily spend obviously on every card, but I'll put a purchase here and there on each card. And looking at AwardWallet and just loading it up every day and clicking update all. So I have the pro, whatever it is, the pro level or the pro subscription. It's just so cool to watch, whatever 40 some accounts get populated at once. And even if just one of them goes up, I get excited over it. I'm still just as much into churning as I was when a couple years ago when I first got into it. I love every aspect of, especially data. So when, when I load up those and I refresh everything, I can see those point balances go up. I get really excited. But it's a great tool, not just for your point balances and keeping everything updated there, and checking out all of your, whenever your point programs could possibly expire. Now, remember, AwardWallet, don't believe, actually grabs the expiration date of your points. So what it does is it estimates based on basically when the last time there was a balance up or down, and it kind of adjusts that expiration date on points. So it may not be 100% accurate, but it's pretty close. That's another great aspect of it. And then the third aspect that I really like is just that it keeps all of your login information. It's a little worrisome, I'll say that. And I was really frightened at first, just because they certainly don't really tell you, I guess, as clear as they should. So when you make a loyalty account and you're adding it to AwardWallet, your password and username is in plain text. There's no other way around. If you're able to click on a link and it's able to log you into an account, your password's in plain text. So if the database or whatever else gets hacked, there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of loyalty accounts that you're going to have easy access to. I mean, if somebody hacks their database, they're going to have access to every loyalty account that you have. It's not really like the biggest concern, just because they'd have access to so much. The chance of them using anything that you have, typically, I should say, when somebody hacks something on that scale, they're just out for your name and address, phone number, email address, that kind of stuff, where they can sell it and make a small profit on it. But no, it's a great website. Like I said, not only for an aspect of tracking your points and your expiration dates, but having all your logons on there is just so simple. Loyalty programs are one of the strangest things for me, just because there's no method to the madness. There are some loyalty programs out there that require you to, create a username. That's easy enough. Everybody can do that. There's other ones like IHG, where you have to type in a PIN number for a password. Like, what is that all about? There's some that you have to use, like AmericanAirlines.com. You have to use your frequent flyer number, your last name, and then your password. It's so confusing to keep track of all the different login methods and what the requirements are. AwardWallet is just terrific for that. So if you don't have AwardWallet, if you're new getting started and you don't have an account there, sign up for that. I recommend paying for the pro version. Once you get everything established and you have a lot of loyalty accounts, it saves you a lot of time refreshing, because I think the basic version only refreshes one program at a time. So when you have like 40 like me, if you're doing one at a time, it just takes forever. So it's nice to just get them all done. That's probably the thing I'm most frequent. And then the second thing I'm most frequent is my own spreadsheet. So I love spreadsheets, and I don't know how you guys feel about spreadsheets. Is everybody here, you guys mostly all use spreadsheets? If you want to type in the chat, it'd be great. But see, my problem with spreadsheets are just that, I don't know, they're not very interactive, and it's kind of hard to get data out from them. So it's easy to put data in. It's easy to kind of like look at them, look at the data. So, I use the same spreadsheet. I use the spreadsheet that we used and they put up on the subreddit. So if you go on Churning and you click on to learn more and you go to useful links and tools, you'll see the useful spreadsheet. That's the spreadsheet I created, and I still have, I still create. I haven't messed around with it too much lately. So I love the spreadsheet. It's a kind of like a build on from what I believe the username is DC Chillin had. It's an add-on from his. It's gotten a lot more complex over the years, and I love it. I use it all the time, but I just don't feel like I get out of it what I put into it. So I'm working on something. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'm trying to work on something that's basically an online spreadsheet to where you can keep your data in there. It's easier to pull data, historical data and things like that. I kind of want to know just my point values and my point totals, but I want to know, how much money did I make in hotel redemptions last year? And, that kind of stuff is a little bit tougher to pull out of any spreadsheet. I know that I have 1.4 million. Is that even right? 1.4. It doesn't sound right now. So I have like 300,000 Hyatt points, or roughly. Where did I get those points? How much is that worth? Where did I redeem them at over the last few years? Things like that I would like to know a little bit more in depth. And actually, those numbers aren't right, because that has me down as American Airlines. And that's the other problem with spreadsheets, is that stuff gets shifted around. Your formulas all get whacked out of whack. I mean, it's saying that American Airlines, I have 15,000 points redeemed or earned, which I guess maybe this year, but certainly not the case overall. I have closer to 500,000. So there's a lot of work that goes into spreadsheets, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I do love them. If you're getting into churning, you're probably going to use a spreadsheet at some point. There's just no way around it. But I hope to change some of that, at least eventually. And if it's not, next month, it's going to be, maybe at the end of this year. But hopefully eventually I have something in place that kind of fixes a lot of those problems with spreadsheets. But spreadsheets are great. They're good for organizing, good for tracking that kind of information. And really, when it comes down to it, I guess I use ExpertFlyer a lot too now. So ExpertFlyer is something I never used until just recently. The steps that I took when I got into churning is, when I first got into churning, I was completely overwhelmed and clueless about everything. So that was how I first got into churning. I had no clue what was going on. I didn't know what to do. It was just an overwhelming experience. The subreddit was nowhere near as nice as laid out as it is now. So, it was hard to pull data out of the subreddit. And it was only like we had maybe 18,000 people. Now we're at 42. So it was, over half its size smaller. It's when I first got started, I was completely clueless. And then after that, when I started getting into it, I started learning about all the different programs and some of the, American Airlines and Delta and all these other different programs. I was still clueless on some of the points, like UR points and SPG, and how they transferred and what everything there meant. I eventually learned that, and I kind of grasped all that with points. And then I started getting into more about award travel, and that's kind of where I'm at right now even. There's a lot of people that are way more advanced than I am. But I think that, having your points is important, but then maximizing them and getting the most potential out of them is kind of fun too. So, it's looking at some of these flights. When I look at a flight now, I guess when I first got into churning, I said, I want to fly to Japan. And, after a year or so into it, I said, I don't want to fly to Japan. I want to fly to, Japan in first class, or I want to fly on the new 787. So I start looking up different airlines, what routes they take, what metal they're flying. And, it's a lot more analytical of a process than when I first started. And I just kind of, wanted to go somewhere. So that's the one big difference that I've done. And that's why ExpertFlyer has been really nice for me recently. And I've actually just started paying for it. So I think it's like $10 a month, which is a little bit high. I don't know if I'm going to keep paying for it, but it is nice. And here's why it's nice. So a lot of the different airlines out there, when award seats are opening up, you can set up ExpertFlyer to notify you when an award seat opens up. So rather than going on British Airways and checking every single day and hoping that something opens up, you set up a one-time notification. It checks every day for you, and it emails you whenever a seat is opened up. So that alone makes it worth money, to a lot of people. That's probably one of the biggest uses out of it. Another thing that it'll do, so like right now I only have a couple flights booked, but let's use, for instance, my flight coming back from Italy. My flight is, well, at least was insane. I kind of fixed some of it last night, but still it's kind of crazy. I'm going from Milan to Madrid, Madrid to Miami, Miami to Pittsburgh. Now, before that, I was going Milan to Madrid, Madrid to Miami, Miami to Chicago, Chicago to Pittsburgh, which was a little bit, too crazy for even me. But one thing you can do for a flight like that, where I know that I'm going to be flying Iberia's new plane. Now I can't forget off the top of my head and remember what plane it is, but it's one of Iberia's newer jets, and they have a really nice business class. So you can actually set up notifications to let you know if the plane has changed. So a good example of that is Japan Airlines on their Dallas to Narita line. They were only flying their new 787 a couple days a week. And then even those couple days a week, they were swapping out with the old jet. So you can have a flight booked and they can confirm over the phone with you that it is on the new 787, which is just a terrific experience. It's a great plane to fly. I can't speak enough of it. But you can have that flight booked, and then you go and show up to the airport and you find out that you're on this old jet that is like completely run down and, it needs a complete overhaul. So ExpertFlyer can kind of save you on situations like that. And like I said, once you start looking into these flights and you start looking into the different metal flying, that's a big deal. That's the reason. It's kind of runs into the second half of the recording here, what I want to talk about, the end sky experience. And so I think ExpertFlyer is great for that. And then the third aspect, so the first one being award availability and emailing you, the second one being aircraft notifications. And then the third aspect that I really like about ExpertFlyer is I just like looking at the seat maps. So when I was coming back from Japan, we had economy class booked, and I knew I wanted to upgrade to first class, but there was no availability because they only open like 1 or 2 seats when the schedule first opens up. So with ExpertFlyer, you can you type in your origin airport and then your destination airport, what airline you want to fly, and then what day. It will bring up the flight schedule for that, for that airline. It'll even have all the transfer ones. So maybe a Narita to Los Angeles, on and whatever. But it will have, like JL Flight 11. That's the flight I took. That's the Narita to Chicago line. So I was able to click on that for that particular day. I was able to bring up the seating chart for first class, and I could tell that there were 4, maybe 3 or 4 seats in first class taken. So that left, 4 or 5 seats open, potentially open. So I knew that there was a good chance that they were going to release some for, award availability about a month out. The flip side of that is if you have a flight booked on a particular day and you're waiting for something to open up, with ExpertFlyer, you can log on, click on your plane, you can see, oh, wow, 7 of the 8 seats are already booked. At that point, you should probably consider changing a day ahead or before. Again, you can look at ExpertFlyer and kind of judge, or maybe your Chicago route is completely full, but you have pretty good availability going to New York. So it's things like that where ExpertFlyer really comes in handy. I guess it's really trying to maximize your points, and it kind of takes out some of the guesswork on some of these bigger redemptions. So that's one of my big pluses about it. So I know I just spoke a lot about it, but I'm still not 100% sure that I'm going to be continuously paying for it just because of the price. So that's where I'm at with ExpertFlyer. And then we go into some of these newer programs that you see posted a lot. Turnbase is one of them. I saw the guy just posted that was about 8 days ago or so. And then Churners.io, he's come out with a second version of it. He just posted that. And I can't find that post. I was looking for it. If anybody has that post offhand, if you can type it in the chat, that'd be great, because I'm not sure exactly where it's at. So Turnbase is pretty nice. I'm a pretty big fan of Turnbase. I don't really use it. I don't use a lot of these tools. But what it basically looks like it does, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like it basically keeps all of the application data. It kind of does what the spreadsheet does on the churning subreddit. So it's going to keep all your application data for not only your cards, but for everybody's cards. And then it has some pretty nice analytics on it. It's really simple, up front. It looks good. It's clean. And it also shows you, things like denials and what the credit score is, what your, approval is across all different credit scores. What's interesting to me is when the first thing I look at this is that your approvals are in that 725, 749, or 725 to 775 range, which is where most people's credit score is. I think that, get into churning, and that's where the majority of your denials are too. So it's kind of funny. I think that most of us here, we don't get denied because of credit score. We just get denied because we have too many freaking cards open. But it has some interesting things like, most applied cards. Sapphire is the most applied for card, most retained card, the Mileage Explorer. I'm not sure how accurate it is just because there's not a whole lot of data on there. But if people keep filling this stuff out, it'll definitely be interesting. The Chase Sapphire is the most referred card, followed by the Starwood Preferred Guest, and then the Chase Freedom, because they have great referrals. Chase gives you, $100, $200, even more than that for referring somebody, and SPG gives you, a boatload as well. So that's why those cards are going to be the most referred to cards. So Turnbase is kind of nice. Like I said, it's as I said when I started the show, it just gives you that analytical look on some of your, some of your information. So the analytical part. But there's, I appreciate it, man. Oh, Lumpy deleted it. That's why, huh? That's interesting. I don't know why. I'm wondering why he deleted it. So there is Turnbase. I just put the link up for that if you want to click on it and view it. Like I said, that is just your retentions, your approvals, just some analytical things that I think is a really neat part to look at. Now, again, I never registered and I've never logged in, so I don't know if there's more in the back end, but it doesn't look like it. And then I want to talk just for a quick second about TurnIO, because the OP has mentioned it a few times. He's kind of brought it up. What does it do? How does it work? And is it secure? Is it legit? So the first time he posted it, he didn't have, what he was basically doing was you would type in your credit card information. It would store all your credit card information on his website. And then every year it would charge each of your credit cards $1. So the reason for that was twofold. Number one, it would keep track of, it would keep your card, or it was like every 6 months. It would keep your card from expiring, and you could turn it off if you wanted to. So I don't want to, speak out of turn here. But anyways, it would keep your card from expiring because you kind of had a purchase going on at every 6 months or so. But then in addition to that, it kind of keeps a track of all your cards and emails you when your yearly fees are running up, things like that. So people complained of multiple reasons. It didn't have a SSL on it, so there was no security with it, which the payment information wasn't stored on his servers. It was stored with Braintree. But the problem is that if you applied for an account and then you forwarded or you typed in your credit card information to go to Braintree, it still went through his site, and then from his site it went on to Braintree. So there was that lack of security from point A being your computer onto his servers. Now from his servers to Braintree was fine, but at first still it's a credit card number, so it was very concerning and alarming, and then the idea got shut down pretty hard. So he came out with he fixed it, but it was just too late. So now he's redesigned it, come out with a second version. What does it do? And is it secure? So it does appear that it's secure now. And this, the guy who developed it, I mean, he's got a nice background. I think he's just looking to, kind of add something that's going to help the community out. I don't think he's doing it for, at least not initially looking for much profit. But what was interesting about it is that before the show started, I signed up for an account and I added one card in there, and you don't have to actually type in a card number anymore. So that's good. It's just the last four of a card, what card you signed up for, the annual fee, kind of things like that. I guess the thing when I sign up for it, what I found out is that it just doesn't do much for me. Like the only thing it does is it keeps track of your cards, and it has them all in like little tiles on the webpage, but it doesn't do anything. So that's where my problem, I guess, comes with it. If it emails me and lets me know that the card is closing, a month early, sure, that's kind of nice, but I have the spreadsheet for that. And I don't have to, the spreadsheet is universal for me. It keeps track of my points, my awards, how how much everything is valued, and it keeps track of all of my credit cards on a much simpler line by line basis rather than having tiles for each particular card. So on my Surface Pro 4, it's a kind of a tablet. I can only see, 3 or 4 or 5 cards at once. I have so many cards that it just doesn't work on that kind of a setup. I also like to keep track of cards that I've closed. I like to keep track, when I close them out so that I know I can apply again. So that website doesn't do anything. It's basically, there's just not much use for it right now. I think if the developer put some more time into it and actually came out with something that was just more useful than having an email basically sent on a referral, there is some potential to it. And like I said, I feel like he's really doing it to, I feel like he's doing it for just to help the community out. I don't feel like he's trying to make a big profit on this, nothing like that. He's doing a lot just to help everybody out. I just feel like he just needs to do a little bit more work and kind of analyze what is really useful that somebody would really need. And just having to go through typing in all your credit cards just so you can get an email a month before, I don't think the use is really there, or not right now at least. So is it legit? Yeah, I think it is legit. Is it secure? It is secure now because there's no personal information. Is it useful? No, I'm sorry. No offense to the guy. No, like I said, I know he's trying to help out, and I have full faith in him. I think that, there's potential for it. I'm just not feeling it right now. So jump onto the chat here 1 second. We had Chaska ask a message. Am I missing something? Just haven't gotten into the spreadsheets. Granted, I don't have many cards at the moment, but I don't see a lot of value in them. So my spreadsheet is my baby. I love the spreadsheet. I don't like that it's a spreadsheet, but I love it because multiple reasons for me. So the spreadsheet that I use, like I said, and again, this is the one that's in the useful links on the churning subreddit. If you go down to learn more and click on useful links, let me see here. Actually, if I jump into the churning subreddit, I can go to useful links. I can actually just post up a link to my spreadsheet right here. So let me go ahead and post up this link on the extra box here. Hopefully it works. I don't know, being a Google Doc, it may not. Oh, wow, it actually posts the actual spreadsheet in there. That's ridiculous. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just post up the useful links to Reddit URL. And you guys can actually click on the current spreadsheet. If you haven't seen my spreadsheet, I definitely recommend it. Not checking it out, not just because it's my spreadsheet, but because it's interesting to see, and it's pretty useful. So the reason I use my spreadsheet, let's see here. I use it to keep track of manufacturer spending. So a lot of these websites like AwardWallet and similar, they have things in there to kind of keep track of your points, but they don't have anything in there to keep track of manufacturer spending. So I can look, I have all of my cards listed. I have every time I use any card for any kind of manufacturer spending, I type in the amount that I use. This helps keep track of, at the end of the year, I can look at my SPG card and say, okay, last year I put, $13,765. So it helps out me to know what I can expect when I go in for retention. So a card that has $20,000 in spend has a much better shot at getting a better retention than a card with $0 in spend. Retention offers are pretty static. So I don't know if a lot of people know that or are aware of that. Retention offers don't change much based on, person to person. They basically have 2, possibly 3 different retention offers at any one time. And that goes off of a number of things, but one of them being your card spend. So the Starwood Preferred Guest, some people get, I've seen 10,000 points retention offers, and I've seen a 1,000 point retention offer. So knowing where you're at with manufacturer spending and it allows you to know what to expect when you go into retention, and you can kind of bargain for a little bit more if they have something available. So that's one thing that's really good. The second thing that I like about my spreadsheet is that I keep track of all my dollar values in it. So I keep track of all my points. I write down an estimated value. That's based on my own experience and based off of a lot of what the points guy uses. I know, don't mention him. He has a lot of great information on his site. I know we give him a hard time in the community and things, but he has a lot of great information. He has a lot of great articles, and his monthly evaluations on the points, while a little bit skewed, is a great place to start on a spreadsheet or something like that when you're trying to get an estimated value for your points. So, using that stuff, I keep track of all my points. I keep track of where everything's at, and I can go year by year and just see that, last year I earned roughly, I mean, I know it's rough, but roughly $37,000. And this year I've already earned, 11 or 15, whatever, 11,000, 12,000, 15,000. It's just nice to know, kind of give you an idea how much you're getting out of your hobby that you're putting so much time into, especially when you're somebody like me that puts just an endless amount of time. It's good to know that since I've started, I'm roughly $47,000, 46, 47,000. So it's good to know that in a year and a half, it's basically a side job. I mean, it's not like, it's not so much a hobby as it is a side job for me, because I'm making a lot of money for us for these, for different traveling. And then I keep track of all my vacations that I go on, and I try to keep track of, point values and things there. I don't keep up with it as much as I should. But for instance, I went to Wichita, Kansas. I'll write down my Southwest miles that I used. I'll look up the flight for that and then write down that as the estimated value. I stayed in IHG for 4 nights for 20,000 points with the point break. But I know that the hotel was a little bit more than $100 a night. So I was able to do like 125 times 4 for 500. And I keep track of all my trips just to kind of see how much money that I'm saving when I go on these trips and I'm not using cash to pay for that kind of stuff. So that's another reason I like my spreadsheet. Third reason I like my spreadsheet is my third tab. I keep track of every credit card that I have, the credit card, the bank, the issue date, the yearly fee, and the credit limit, and the date that I closed it. So I know coming up, for instance, I have my platinum card that I'm obviously going to have to close because I'm not paying that annual fee on that card. So I know that card's coming up. I have to close out of it. So it just kind of gives me a heads up. That's coming on 5/5. So I have 10 days to get in touch with them and see if there's a retention offer on it. I did put some spin on it, but the yearly fee is really high, and I know they don't typically waive it. So just things like that. It's good to keep track of all my cards. And then finally, I keep track of my gift card balances. So anything that I buy, so for instance, the platinum card has the annual reimbursement on it for airline fees, and a lot of people buy gift cards. So if I buy a gift card, I'll keep track of it on there just so I have one spot where I have 8 or 9 gift cards. I know the gift card number, the merchant, the PIN number, the balance, and then what email account it's associated with. So yeah, my spreadsheet, I use it all the time. And basically all I do is I go to AwardWallet, I update it, click update, and then I just mirror back anything that I get in AwardWallet. I mirror it back to my spreadsheet. I keep track of it month for month, and you can kind of see your point values and see how you've grown and use points as well. So I love my spreadsheet. It's something that you will use. I think it makes everything a lot easier, especially if you're somebody like me and you just like the analytical side of things where you can see your return. So, and then that was a long-winded explanation of why I like spreadsheets. But my other, like I said, the flip side to that is what I said in the first half of the show. I don't like spreadsheets because it's online and it's static information, as opposed to I want something a little bit more robust, and I want something that's easier to pull data out of. So I want to know how many hotel points I accrued in the month of February last year. It's kind of hard to see that. I have to go to the spreadsheet. I have to click on a bunch of things and add things up. And it's just a lot of work, as opposed to if I had something that was online based, it would just be so much simpler. So I'm working on something like that, but I won't be available till a long time. So, I mean, that's basically it with tools. Like I said, Hotel Hustle is another one that was, when I first started, I really liked Hotel Hustle. And I think that was mostly because in my head, hotels were always booked up and you would never be able to get a room ever anywhere. And then once I started, accruing points and making phone calls, I found out that just wasn't true. So, Hotel Hustle for me is not really that great of a tool. I just don't use it because if I need a room, I just call up. I book my stuff ahead. Don't book it last minute. Book your stuff in the future, and you won't have any of these problems where you need to use a site like Hotel Hustle. So definitely not a bad site, just don't you really use it. AwardMapper, that is something that's really nice to have. So awardmapper.com, if you don't go there, type that out here, awardmapper.com. It's so loud on the microphone, so I apologize for tapping sounds. But AwardMapper is really nice. What that does is allows you to basically Google Maps. You can go to any city, and it shows you all the hotels that are in that city and what they cost in terms of points. So if you go to San Francisco, there's a little key on the top left. You can turn off everything and leave up only Starwood. It'll show you all the Starwood hotels in San Francisco. I can click on each one. It will say, this is a category 6. It costs X amount of points a night. That is such a nice tool to have. So and it also allows you to know if there's any good deals. So maybe maybe something costs 20,000 SPG points, but there's a place right down the street from it that's only 40,000 IHG points. Maybe like an Intercontinental that's just cheaper for some reason. So being that you don't want to spend 20,000 SPG points, you'd rather spend the 40,000 IHG points for the same city on the same street. There you go. So AwardMapper is pretty nice for things like that when you're comparing. And then not only that, but you can, maybe if you don't want to stay in a city because you just don't want to spend the big money on the points, you can look for things in the suburbs that, you can see geographically where they're at on the map and how far they are away from the, downtown areas. Maybe if there's a rail system or something that goes in. So AwardMapper is really nice. I don't use as much as I should, but it definitely is a mention in here and something that, everybody should use at some point. So I think that pretty much wraps up my conversation on some of the online tools that I use. If anybody has anything else they want to talk about in the chat, go ahead and bring them up and I can try to discuss those. But man, that was long-winded. It was 37 minutes. I wasn't expecting holding quite that long on the online tools, but that's not too big of a problem because I really don't expect talking too long on my next topic. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. The second part of the show, I want to talk about just the in-flight experience, the in-sky experience. Is there anybody here who has ever booked a flight to a city for the flight? So I know going to Japan, we've always wanted to go to Japan. So the flight was really an afterthought. But after I read a lot about Japan Airlines first class and the new business class on the 787 and things, I was really, really excited for the flight experience. I mean, the flight experience was really a vacation in itself. I had a vacation on the way there. I had a vacation while I was there, and then we had a vacation when we left, and we flew first class on the way back. So, there's places that I would certainly consider going that I may not go to just because of the flight experience. Hong Kong, it's not a place that's really on my top list of places to go. But I may stop there on a stopover or something like that. Maybe not necessarily a stopover per se, but a separate flight just to go over and fly Cathay Pacific, business or first on the way there and spend a couple of days and maybe head down to Singapore or somewhere else I wanted to go. So it kind of, it just goes into showing you how the in-flight experience can really, make your decisions on places you may want to see. And it kind of hold you back from going to other places that you may not, you may want to go. For instance, I'd like to see Eastern Europe a lot. There's a lot of places I want to see, but we definitely want to go to Eastern Europe and see Ireland and London and Paris and just kind of do that little rotation right there. But there's no nice flights over there. I'm not saying it's holding me back. I'm just saying that if there was a nice airline that flew over there for cheap, it helps. If I could book Japan Airlines on the 787 over from New York to London, and I didn't have to pay all the fees or fuel surcharges and all these fees at the airport, having that little bit of flight experience, the in-flight, in-sky experience, certainly helps make decisions a little bit easier, which I never really thought about until today, and I thought it was really interesting. So one of the posts that I made on Award Travel that got some good conversation going, I thought was, are there any flights out there that people want to take just because of the flight itself? So, I don't care about the city. I don't care about necessarily the service that you get on, the plane, but just what airlines out there or what airplanes are just really unique to fly on. The first one that got mentioned was the 747. They actually have the 747, which I believe they're getting out. They're getting away from it. So they're going to do away with the 747s. But they have seats that are actually in the nose of the plane, and they're very neat if you look up the pictures online. So something like that is just completely different. It's out there, something unique. I was looking up, a couple different things here. If we look, the A380, I think that's one airline that I want to fly regardless of where it goes. I just want to fly on the plane. So that is one trip that I will likely end up taking just because I want to experience an A380 in first or business class. I mean, who doesn't? Would you not want to be on an airplane just to be on it just because it has stairs and it has a complete upper deck to it? Some of the ones like Emirates, their A380 has a full service bar and lounge area with cocktails, and they have snacks and things on the back. It's just crazy. They have the shower that's in them. It's just so crazy to look at these pictures and think that you're on an airplane. It would just be such a neat experience to fly on some of those. So that's really the biggest thing about it was just the in-sky experience and some of those trips that you wouldn't mind taking just because the plane is cool. Somebody else mentioned, I'm looking on here now, I'm trying to find it, Ski Forever, even mentioned the 787 on JL, Japan Airlines J. That was a great experience. I mean, so I guess if you're going to be flying to Japan, I certainly recommend flying the 787. I think they have a few routes, but Dallas to Narita is probably one of the more popular ones. I think they have one from the West Coast as well, like LAX. So the plane, I can actually talk and experience about this one. And I know that I did a little bit last week, and I don't want to keep going on about it. But what was really nice about that plane is that my fiance and I, we were extremely excited. This was our first big trip. So with churning, we've done Chicago, we did California, we've done Kansas, New Orleans, somewhere else, in the U.S., and I've done Jamaica just in February. But we were really, really, really looking forward to Japan. So that was like one of our big planes our big flights that we were looking forward to for, 10 months. And it just felt like that day was never going to come. And then, growing up the anticipation in the upcoming weeks, I think was really exciting because I knew that, this day is going to come and we're going to be on this plane. And then, finally the day is there and you fly from Pittsburgh down to Dallas and you get the airport lounges and things like that, which is nice and all. I cannot even explain the feeling. I mean, the feels that hit you once you step onto that plane, and just the mood lighting, everything is brand new. So I mean, it's like pristine. The mood lighting that's on the top, the ambient LED lighting, was just overwhelming. They're playing some music kind of in the background, just some soft, some soft things playing. And then once you sit down in your seat, the sun's beating down on you. You're, just overwhelmed with happiness and just so excited. And you realize that, man, the sun's a little bit hot. So you go to pull down the shade, and then you realize there's a touch buttons on the side, and you have to press down, and it like literally tints the window to a complete darkness. I can't even explain the feeling that I had on that plane as compared to if I wouldn't have been disappointed. The excitement would have still been there if it were just a normal, typical plane. But given that we were flying business class and we were on a brand new jet with the lighting and the music, it really set up the trip that much better. Not only did I get a great amount of sleep, and we woke up ready to go when we were in Japan. Well, I shouldn't say we woke up ready to go because we woke up at like 9:30 at night. But just the experience of that, when, sitting down and having the lighting and everything go, it was incredible. And it was certainly worth spending a little bit of extra miles, and getting that kind of a flight. So the in-sky experience, what I mean by that is just, there's certain planes that you have to fly on. There's certain things that you have to do. If you're going to Japan, you have to fly the 787 JAL, Japan Airlines. It was just so unique. And what's second about that I also wanted to mention too, which is really neat, is that when you're in the airport, the waiting room, whatever you call it, the gate, the airline gate, there's like no Americans. So I never really thought about it, I guess, until I was in the gate itself. If you're, American and you're going to fly to Japan, you're just going to book American Airlines because that's what you know. You know American Airlines, you know Delta. Like, nobody has heard of Japan Airlines. So the only people who've heard of Japan Airlines are Japanese people. So as soon as even when you step in the gate, you are one of, maybe a handful of Americans going there. So it was very unique just being in the gate itself. So incredible experience. Certainly recommend, spending the extra miles to fly on a nice plane at least once. And the way back, so we did first class on the 777, which was, I think the service, so the plane was nice, but the service was kind of where that really stood out. The 787, the plane itself was really, where the experience was. The service was great, but just having the technology and things that plane was equipped with was really neat. And hello, Churners, welcome. Nice that you stopped in. So I guess when I'm talking about that, it's just these different flights. I don't know if there's anything else that I would take. I wanted to take the A380. Emirates would just be cool. There's not many. It's funny because I don't care. I know that, like you're saying, as someone who's flying economy and long haul flights, I make you jealous. I don't have much want to fly business or first class. I want to fly it just because of the experience itself. So I'm not the kind of person who's like, I have to fly business class if I'm going to go there. I'm going to be spending, 9/10 of my flights in economy. There's certain products I want to try out. So I guess that's why I'm doing it. I do it more just to try it out, not so much because I care about sleeping well or anything else like that on a flight, which is nice, don't get me wrong. The food and stuff is excellent. But I just don't really have, I just want to try out the products. I guess that's the reason why I did it. I want to try out Japan Airlines business. I want to try out the first class. I want to see Iberia's business on their new plane. But other than that, like I said, A380 is certainly on the list. And the city loophole helped out so much with this. I mean, if I didn't have the miles to use, I certainly wouldn't be using them. I think with me, what goes through my head a lot is that things always seem to work out. And it seems that, I know that I have a limited number of miles, but I'll use them. And I just go with the ambition of a couple things is that I earn them to use them. So as Churner Burn there says, his name speaks numbers every time I see it. You churn cards to burn points. That's all there is to it. It's that simple. So don't overcomplicate things and be like, if I can get this 4 flights to here, 1 flight there is just experience. You're doing this for the experiences. It's nice to see the world, and this stuff is going to be around for a while. Maybe not to the same level and the same degree, but I am fairly confident that, I take the mindset of I'm using my points. Something else will come along, some type of manufacturer spending where I can up my balances again later on. But for right now, I'm happy using them and, getting the experiences I wanted to get in. So that's my stance on everything. So that kind of wraps up, the 2 big points I want to talk about. I can open it up to questions and answers. I know a lot of people, not too many people on chat, a number of people in here, but nobody typing too much on the chat. But if anybody has anything that they want to talk about or bring up, or any questions, with my last trip, or so our next trip coming up will be, we're going to go somewhere for the 4th of July. So if you have any ideas where to go for the 4th of July, I'm all ears. We want to keep it local. Now we're talking about maybe just kind of staying really local and doing a hiking trip somewhere like the Smoky Mountains or, Virginia, somewhere like that. Just taking a weekend and hiking some mountains. Sounds like a lot of fun, but we're still open to maybe doing a city somewhere. And Boston was on the radar. Seattle, but Seattle's just kind of far. We're not trying to take much time off work. So if anybody has any suggestions there, I'm all about it. See what Chaska says here. Someone who's starting out in the new age of churning. What's a good plan of attack? Being able to continue to accumulate plenty of points while also being able to afford extravagant flights just for experience. Oh, this is a great question. Yay. So I like good questions, and this is a really good one here. So somebody who's just starting out, what's a good plan of attack, and how do you afford the extravagant flights? So this is kind of where I was at, and this was one of the most frustrating things for me because I was in a position to where I wanted to see a lot, and I didn't want to limit myself to just economy flights. But it didn't bother me, I guess. I said, I can fly economy as long as I get to see some different countries out there. And then the more I read these blogs and the more I read different posts, with well-traveled mile and 1 mile at a time, whatever, I forget all the different posts out there. But the more I read them, the more I guess jealous I got of, I have to experience this. I mean, this looks incredible. At least once I have to fly first class. And so that was the mentality I took, was that I have to do it once. That's all there is to it. So the first thing I did was my fiance and I, we wanted to plan our honeymoon. So we wanted to go to Italy. I mean, what's more romantic than Italy? We can go anywhere else, but we'll do that on our off time for honeymoon. We'll go to Italy. So we booked our Italy trip, and I booked Iberia business class on the way back, which was, just a hell of a painful process, but I ended up doing it. And I was so excited. I was, yes, I finally got the first business class on the way back. This is kind of where I was in that step of, I didn't know about that whole in-sky experiences and different planes and, all that. I just knew that business class was nice and I wanted to fly it. So I booked that on the way back and economy on the way there, just because that was the way that the flights ended up working out. And then a funny thing happened. Citi basically allowed you to get a card every single month. So I applied for 5 or 6 of them, and my fiance applied for 4 or 5 of them. So we ended up getting, let's go into a smaller term and say 10 cards, 10 additional cards. We already had 2, so basically 12 cards times 50,000 miles. So what's that end up working out to be? I don't have a calculator in front of me right now, but the answer is a lot of freaking miles. So now we had all the American Airline miles. It says 600,000. Says like I have the miles now. Why not? Let's live it up. So we booked our business class flight to Japan, and then even with the devaluation going on, I just wanted to experience it, and I paid the extra, upgraded. It was 60,000, went up to 80,000. So I paid the extra 40,000 miles, but when we had 600,000, it wasn't that big of a deal. We still have 300,000, so I don't know what I'm going to do for the future, but I guess my key there is just opportunity. So everything just kind of fell in place for me with the loophole and things. There's always going to be opportunities. So every time a door closes, one opens up. So I say that with a little bit of hesitation because recently it's been like 5 doors have closed and nothing has opened up. But doors, I think, we're at the stage of the game now where doors are continuously going to close, but something will always open up eventually. So there's always going to be some type of manufacturer spending. When I first got into it, there was the Target Red Card. Before that, there was the dollar coins everybody talks about. Yeah, you constantly have to look for loopholes, number one. And then number two, when you find a loophole and you read about it, don't hesitate. So jump on it instantly. It makes a big difference. So as soon as I heard about the whole Citi card thing, I started applying for them. And then as soon as I had the card, I closed out of it, reapplied for it. And I did that. And that's how I got, 11 of the cards or 10 cards was through the loophole and jumping on it as soon as I heard about it. I think that's the biggest thing with this game is that if you're hesitant about doing something, you're going to lose out. Another example of that was, American Express Platinum card came out for 100,000 points publicly. And it was only public for, Churners can help me here, it was public for like 8 hours. But the guy posted it. It blew up on Reddit. It blew up on Flyer Talk. I applied as quickly as I could. And then it was gone. The next morning, it was gone. It was no longer available. So it's just one more example. And I have so many posts of people, oh, I was going to apply, but I had this go. Don't make excuses. Don't hesitate. Jump on something when you see it. If it sounds too good to be true, it likely is. So that's the biggest thing. The second thing is, I guess, now, let's say you want to take an approach of, getting a nice flight and without, using some of these loopholes, are going to be your transferable points. So look at your transferable points and some of these charts that they have online. Transferable point chart. If I look up this chart that they have online that everybody's pretty frequently with, I'm not sure exactly where it's at. I have to get back to you on that. But so it's the chart that has all the 4 programs. It has the little lines out to all different airlines and where everything transfers out to. Study those charts because here it is. I actually found it here. The nice thing about the transferable points is that you can apply, for many, many cards, and you can transfer all your points across UR and SPG. So you have UR points, Starwood points, and membership reward points, thank you points. Some of those can all be transferred into one airline. So I don't know if that's opened up for you guys or not, but I'm gonna go ahead and just type in a chat because it didn't show up for me. So you can transfer out a lot of your points to one particular airline. So if I'm looking at this chart, for example, Singapore Airlines is a great example. So maybe you want to fly a Singapore suite. So you can do that by, gathering up and saving up on some thank you points, some membership reward points, and UR points. And after you apply for maybe the American Express Platinum, the Gold Card, the Thank You Premier, the Prestige, whatever, you're going to have plenty of points to transfer those into Singapore Airlines and book a first class suite. I think, the one thing that if you're going to do things legitimately that you have to consider here is that generally speaking, you have 2 choices to make. And that's, or I guess one choice to make, but 2 options to take. Do you want to do things through luxury travel, or do you want to spread out your points and, see a lot? So, just with our vacation time and the way everything works for us, we don't have a whole lot of time off. And I know I take a lot of these trips and I talk about a lot of them. That's just because they're really short trips generally. But, the trips that we're taking that are longer and they actually end up costing more miles because it's like Japan or, Italy. I'm willing to spend more miles on those trips just because if I don't, I'm going to be sitting on 500,000 freaking American Airline miles that I can't use because I don't have time off work. I have a pretty flexible job where I get a lot of time off work. My fiance is getting up there as well now too, where we have a little bit more time, but generally speaking, we just don't have time off work. So I'm willing to spend more miles on a luxury experience just because, number one, I kind of like luxury. I'm not gonna lie, it's nice because these are flights I'm never gonna be able to afford. Financially, I'm broke, and I won't say broke. I get by, and we have enough to take these trips, and that it's all free, but it all requires a lot of money, anyways. But I don't have the money to fly business class or first class anywhere, obviously. So it's neat to get experiences and just kind of live it up a little bit. Stay at the Ritz-Carlton in Kyoto, which it's like $1,300 a night. And things like that is just so neat to me because it's things I'm never going to have the opportunity to financially afford. Well, I don't want to say never, but maybe I'll hit the lottery or something, get lucky. Generally speaking, I'm just not going to be able to do it. So that's the approach that we took is, with the way it works as everything else, we're able to spend a little bit more miles, get a little bit more out of it. That's, where we're at with it. So that pretty much, I guess, wraps up. It is now 10 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the recording for everybody. I will be back on next Monday, which will be the, second, is it? Or is it the first? I probably shouldn't have known second. So it'll be the second next month. I'll be back on 9 o'clock and have the same show, 9 to 10 o'clock. If you guys see the post, I always appreciate an upvote on the post just because it was pretty clear from the start that once these posts start getting downvoted, or if they do, they're not going to allow posting anymore. So it does help out if you see it. I know I'm asking for upvotes, which I shouldn't do, but that's where I'm at. So next week, Monday or May 2nd, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I will see everybody there.